Hi everyone. Oh, it's so good to be here. It's good to be back. I know you guys have missed me because we've had Skip for like several sessions. So it's so nice to be here with some really top amazing guys today. So welcome to series 3, episode 6 of Email Amora Q&A with. I'm your moderator, Adiola Sol, senior consultant with Holistic Email Marketing. For those of you who are new to the show, on every episode of Email and More, we bring to you a different topic with our selected panel of experts. And today, we're talking about lifecycle marketing and automation. Now, you know that this is your show. So we bring the experts, but it's your questions that drive the conversation, and it's very much unscripted and loads and loads and loads and loads of fun. So please ask your questions using the Q&A tab on your right, please. And feel free to use the chat for everything else, including giving us feedback at the end. So before we actually get into anything, just want to thank our wonderful sponsors. This series of Email and More is brought to you by our gold sponsors, Iterable and Engage, and our silver sponsors, RPE Origin and Actito. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you. And if you want to go back and hear me and Skip chat to some of our favorite experts within the industry, then you can have all of them. You can find all of them on YouTube or on Holistic Email's website. I'm going to put a link in the chat so it makes everything so much more easier for you to navigate. So you can peruse and see everything to your will and your heart's content. And if you do have any questions, you do know where to find us. You can drop us a line at Holistic Email at hello@holisticemail.com. Now, the great bits. We have a brilliant panel today to discuss lifecycle marketing and automations. And with me, as always, is best-selling author and award-winning thought leader, Kath Pay of Holistic Email Marketing. Hey, there she is. We also have Scott Cohen of Smile Direct Club. There he is. And we have Elizabeth Allen of Uniqlo. You going to give us a wave? And last but not least, Ryan Fallon of RPE Origin, our silver sponsor. There he is. Hi, everybody. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. But whilst everyone is introducing themselves, please, for those that are joining us live, field any questions you have into the Q&A box. We're ample, ready and waiting for your questions. So I'm going to pick on Ryan first. Please introduce yourself and tell the visitors and the guests who you are.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Phelan. I'm the managing partner of RPE Origin. We as an agency have been around for about 17 years, helping enterprise companies navigate email marketing strategies and tactics, as well as RFPs and migrations. I've been in the industry 23 years at a senior level with multiple ESPs and on the client side, and just thrilled and honored to be here because this is going to be fun.
Oh, I love that introduction. Amazing. Elizabeth, please introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are.
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the CRM manager at Uniqlo Europe. You might have heard of Uniqlo. It's a Japanese clothing company, present sort of all around the world.
Knows Uniqlo.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's good. And I've been at Uniqlo for 3 years. And yeah, very happy to be here.
Amazing. And Scott, please.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cohen, the Director of CRM Lead Conversion at Smile Direct Club, the clear aligners, straightening your teeth. We're in 6 countries, in US, Canada, UK, Ireland, France, and Australia. So from those of you tuning in from around the world, if you want to get your teeth straightened, I know a guy. I've been doing email for 13 years now. So been in the space, something like that. Been in the space a long time. I've been doing lifecycle marketing for a long time outside of just email. So excited to be here, and it probably derailed this conversation several times.
We're excited to have you and derail away as long as it's still within.
I'll see what
and last but not least, Kath, please Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Kath Pay. I just also wanted to add something to Scott's little bio there or introduction. He was also the ANA EC Email Marketer of the Year 2021. So he's just too modest to let you know. So he's pretty awesome, right? Which is why we have him here.
He is
So
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's super
Guys, stop.
awesome. Look at that. There's some, like, congratulations there for you. Oh, well done. Okay, well, that's all of our panelists. Oh, no, wait, Kath hasn't spoken. Kath.
Just really, really quickly. So, CEO of Holistic Email Marketing. We're a boutique email marketing consultancy, and we love to help brands to achieve their goals. And also, we love to help their consumers achieve their goals too. So that's us in a nutshell.
Yes, amazing. Thank you, everybody. So whilst those that are viewing are getting their questions ready, I'm going to actually lead with this nice, simple one. Let's break it down for everybody. What is the difference between lifecycle marketing and marketing automation? Who wants to go for this one first?
I can have a go at this one.
Yes, please.
So I would say, or my interpretation of lifecycle marketing versus marketing automation, I think marketing automation is sort of broad and also is kind of linked to lifecycle marketing as well. Obviously, ideally, you would want your lifecycle program to be automated. I would say the objective of a lifecycle program is to encourage customers to repeat purchase with your brand. And ideally, you wouldn't want that to be a manual process each time. So I'd say that there is a link between the two. But I would interpret marketing automation to be a kind of post-action trigger. For example, like if you've purchased in store and then we send an email to you to encourage a review, that would be automated marketing, whereas lifecycle marketing would be different per customer depending on what action you've taken. For example, if you hadn't purchased for 6 months or something, that person in particular would get one campaign, whereas every customer would get the same post-action trigger, like a review email, for example. So I would see that as a difference, or that is how we see the difference at Uniqlo anyway. But I'd be interested to see what other people think.
Yeah, because no, I think it's a really, really, it's a very obvious question, but it's also really, really, which is why we kind of posed that sort of the title, and we didn't necessarily assume that they're one and the same, right? Because everyone sees it differently. It's quite a subjective. You ask Ryan, he's going to have a completely different perspective. My take on it, right, is again a little bit different to Elizabeth. So I don't disagree with hers, but I think most of it. But there's a little bit of a difference in that I tend to think that if you really look at all the programs, all the automated programs that you do, they are actually life cycle. They're talking about a specific segment or a one-on-one, one-to-one, either based on behavior or based on their life stage, right? Which has happened over time because of things that they have or haven't done, but it mightn't necessarily be because of that particular action. So I actually regard them as being quite similar, but the naming is different. One is customer-centric, i.e. lifecycle marketing. The other one, marketing automation, is a very technical brand, company-centric, right? So brand-centric rather than customer-centric. So it's talking about how we're going to make it happen. It's talking about, well, we want to be talking to all these people. How are we going to do it? We're going to use marketing automation as opposed to what is our objective for this program? Our objective is to actually be talking to each person throughout the life cycle at the right and appropriate times with the right message. So I simply see them as being incredibly similar. It's just the slant that you take it at. And often then when I've gone in and analyzed, because what we do is we do lots of audits when we get new customers on. And you can sort of see, you pick up, with the discovery session, whether they call it lifecycle marketing, whether they call it CRM, whether they call it marketing automation. And CRM is more of a catch-all, right? And marketing automation and lifecycle marketing can come in under that. You see in their conversations, and then you can actually see that in the actual programs, their mindset as well. because they're focusing on a different goal, or almost a different goal. So that's how I see it. And I know it's not what everyone else sees, and it's a bit controversial, but that's it.
I'm glad you brought up CRM, Kath, because I think in the real world, people conflate terms all the time. CRM means lifecycle marketing, means marketing automation, means whatever, right? Like if you look at job descriptions everywhere, it's marketing automation is this, like you read the job description, it's like, well, you're doing the technical stuff, but you're also managing the lifecycle, right? And so I view lifecycle marketing as the umbrella term. Like all good marketers should be doing lifecycle marketing. Even, I mean, if you think about it, even customer acquisition, that's just the beginning of the lifecycle. And then I always say like CRM, I've said this a million times, like CRM, lifecycle marketing, like as a channel, CRM usually gets conflated as email as well, not a bunch of channels, right?
Yeah.
And I usually say CRM's goal is to fill the gaps in the bucket. Like that's our job, is to make sure people keep moving along, right? Marketing automation to me is a function. It's not a strategy, it's a function of lifecycle marketing. That's how I view the terms. Like lifecycle marketing is everything, marketing automation is the function that powers a bunch of it. And then your goal is to get as much of it, I think Elizabeth, you said it, and Kathy said it as well, like as much of it as automated as possible, because then you have time to do the other stuff. But that's how I view it.
So Scott, do you then, the way you've broken it down, would you say CRM is essentially just a component that is used within all channels rather than a set channel within itself, i.e. email, right? So you see it
ideally CRM
as an enabler.
is customer relationship management should be all channels, because you have to consider all touch points, because all touch points have an effect on the customer relationship.
Yeah.
But it's been conflated as email only in a lot of organizations.
But you do know you are describing a utopia that does not exist.
Of course.
People.
I didn't. Okay. Hey, there's nothing in the description of this panel that says it has to be achievable. Okay. Well, let's be fair.
Just so you don't make those that are watching feel bad.
Yeah. No. I mean,
they are email centric.
But I think
I do agree.
As email marketers, we are equipped with the data. We are equipped with all of the pieces to go fight that battle, to go, hey, CRM should also mean this. Even if you don't manage the channels, you should be in the conversations with the other channels to go, these customers do these things. Paid social should do this. Obviously TV is more broad, but like the other channels where you can get personalization or segmentation at the least, like that, they should be you should be in that conversation because you are the manager of that data.
Yes, and I guess, I don't know if anyone would agree with me, the digital side of the spectrum have kind of coined that as omni-channel and essentially used CRM knowledge and insights to power all of those different things. But unfortunately, it just doesn't sit within, let's say, the email marketing CRM remit, because we don't necessarily have access to all of those touch points. But it's essentially the data that we're driving that is building all of those omni-channel touch points. So it's really interesting. Ryan, I feel your lips trembling. Is there something?
I always have comments. So I think everybody has said it, but the way I kind of describe the differentiation between the two, if you believe in lifecycle marketing, is this: lifecycle marketing is the strategy, marketing automation is the tactic. And we as marketers, regardless of channel, have to draw a line between the strategic layer and the tactical layer, in that you have to know why you're doing something before you figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And you have to answer the question of, why does the customer give a damn? And from that gets into, okay, I've got a strategy. Now I need to execute it. Maybe in push, maybe in SMS, maybe marketing automation through email, maybe marketing automation for text. But it's just recognizing that there is a differentiation between that strategic layer and the tactical layer. That is, again, if you believe in lifecycle marketing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's
which I don't.
That kind of leads into the other question in terms of, is lifecycle marketing even a valid term anymore?
No.
Should people be okay?
No. Moving on. No, because here, okay, so here's my rant, right?
Rant away. And
All right.
while Ryan is ranting, everybody, please ask your questions. Get them in, because you've got some brilliant minds and some brilliant brands here. No question is too big or too small. So get them in. Rant,
There we go.
start.
Okay, back in 2006, responses, back in the good old days,
Mm-hmm.
think about 2006. Our job as marketers, and I can remember this, is our job was to show people how to shop online. That everybody that was online, for the most part, was on dial-up, they were on AOL, they were just getting into Netscape, they were just getting into Prodigy, they were getting online, right? And our job was to teach everybody the same thing. Give me your email address, go shop, buy, whatever. It was a 5-stage life cycle, blah, right? Responses rolled it out. Then everybody rolled it out. And it became this linear concept of how people interact with a brand online. And it was true. That's how everybody did it. But that lasted for a few years. Now we're in a point in time where the dynamic of the customer is so complex, there is no linear analysis of a customer. Customers can come to you and they can buy instantly. They can have a long consideration set. They can look at discount. They can pay full price. I just wrote an article for martech.org and talked about the different customer segments that you can create from people's behavior. Now, that doesn't fit in a linear path. That fits in a non-linear path. So what does lifecycle marketing mean anymore? I think it's an outdated term that needs to be updated to current behaviors of the consumer. You can still have phases and make sure that you check off the phases, but what I want people to understand is the linear path that has been described for the last 10 plus years is not how we envision a customer, prospect, or subscriber's interaction with a brand. It's just not realistic anymore.
I like that. And that's actually quite interesting. And I would agree in terms of the way in which people buy, the way in which the consideration process takes place, even the way in which customers have decided to self-segment themselves. So usually it would be based on, let's say brands would segment their customers based on monetary. So they would say they're VIPs or high value, and high value would equate to a certain amount over a specific time period. When you have pay now or pay later, their values per transaction may look quite small, right, in terms of their incremental value, but the amount of times that they purchase might increase. And so therefore, they may look like low value, but very,
Right.
frequent in terms of their habits and shopping with you. So actually, when do you send your next post purchase, because your data might dictate that it's every 2 months, but perhaps you do have customers that are a lot more frequent, and don't go with the normal, as you say, the linear trend, right, of a life cycle.
Well,
Ryan, I would argue that you're
good.
making a great point, but it was true in 2006.
It was true in 2006. Absolutely.
The exact same
everybody
thing
did
is
it.
true in 2006. Right. No, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
the whole non-linear thing was true then. I worked in higher education in 2006. We had people who showed up ready to go, and you had people who showed up that were just looking for information.
Correct.
Right. And so you had
You
a
bet.
2 to 3 year decision cycle, a consideration set. It's true now in my company. Some people show up, they're ready to go right away, and some people just want more information. Like, if that's the case, life cycle has never been true in your mind.
No, but I didn't want to go back that far. I've always thought that and listen, back in 2006, and Kath knows this, we were all learning as we went. There was everything was new, right? It's the only time I've gone to conferences and every thought leader in the room is furiously taking notes, and we're all coming up with these different approaches to how to do things. And I always have thought that it was too simplistic. it just didn't capture the complexity of data. And to your earlier point, CRM is what unlocks that. CDP is what unlocks that, right? And that complexity is lost if at any time you see it as a linear or an easy kind of phased approach. Hey, if we have our acquire programs and we have our win back programs and we have all that, that's just a base layer. If we don't take that complexity and say, well, what if I have a win back program for this customer segment and this one and this one and this one, then it changes that whole philosophy to say, I didn't just check a box by having a program in a phase. I actually thought about the customer and their particular point in time with my brand.
Okay, and I think this leads on quite nicely to a few questions that we have. I'm going to say you guys are quite rebels. I said put the questions in the question box, but it's okay. So we've got one here from Alexander. Hi, panel. So sweet. Which metric should you optimize for, and how do you measure success of a lifecycle segmentation strategy?
I can go this one. So I'd say before looking at measuring the success of your life cycle strategy, it's important to have a clear goal of what you're trying to achieve. And then from that, you can look at what the different success metrics would be. So for example, if your objective is to increase your active or engaged customer ratio, if you have a percentage, for example, in mind, then that's an obvious success metric to look at if you're aiming for 25% engaged customers or something. But then also there's the other obvious ones, like looking at how many people repeat purchase after this, how many people open your, either it's emails or push notifications or any other forms of communications you have. So those kind of basic metrics, but then also just making sure that you have that clear objective in the end. Not just the kind of minor engagement, not they're minor, but perhaps less important than the overall goal.
Yeah, totally agree, Elizabeth. I mean, each of the life cycle, if we still buy into life cycle, right, each of the stages will have its own distinct objective, right? You'll have a program altogether for your email marketing program, but within, like, acquisition is going to have a different objective or goal than win back, right? As will retention, so you have to look at that and then decide accordingly what the best one will be. And yes, I always look at what your objective, what your goal is, and then it's a bit breezy, and then go with that, whichever is going to be supporting that particular goal.
I think it's holdout groups, which every company hates.
Mm-hmm.
But the only true way.
Wait, sorry, Ryan, for the non-US
holdout groups, control groups, persistent control, right? So you take 10% of your audience and you don't send them the communication, right? And then you isolate that group and you see their performance versus the people that went through the program, right? And in a complex program, what you would do is everybody would get a welcome email and everybody would get transactional emails. Now, some of it, that's all they would get. Everybody else is going to get the full boat, promotional, triggered, ad hoc, whatever, right? But those holdout groups, you can either do it as a persistent holdout across your entire program, or if you're complex enough, you can do it within phases, right? But that control group is the one universal way for you to be able to figure out what your lift is, what the effect of your program is over somebody that didn't receive the program or the emails.
Yeah. And the key metric there would be customer lifetime value. Do you agree?
Conversion rate.
No, not conversion rate. Percentage of lift.
Conversion.
No, I meant you have your baseline conversion rate, and then you have your incremental lift for the program, lift in conversion rate.
You can also look at straight revenue and just say.
But you also have to, I'm probably going to go more with the lift, because you still have to be driving, because that is one of the key factors. It's not. Yeah. So then you could be doing conversion rate or it's the reach. You could also look at reach, couldn't you?
You do, but I go back on control groups on persistent control groups. I actually go back to old direct mail tactics to establish what the control group should look like, right? So when direct mail is sent out, it's done very systematically on a data file to say what's a good sample across the US. And they look at not only the return on investment for that direct mail piece, but they always try to relate what was the added value, what was the lift, right? And so if I exclude somebody, I want to look at their behaviors from purchase frequency, from conversion rate. You can do that, but at the end of the day, it's about my email program makes X more than not doing anything at all. And that's the one metric that I see that resonates with executives. You can say the value of email, we talk about the value of my program. Those control groups are the way to get, hey, if you didn't have my email program, you would be making this much less. But with email, you're making this much more. And that helps with innovation. It helps with investment.
Yeah. And so with that, when you're looking at your control groups, for those who are thinking about, because I think there is always that worry of eliminating certain people from your campaigns,
Yes.
because revenue is always the number one target. And if it's not revenues, it's the amount of people you're funneling to the site, right? It's the number of sessions. So when constructing that type of control group, you mentioned they're looking at people's, spending capabilities and different metrics that help make that control group. So it's not actually just a random bunch of people, it's actually quite considered. So
Correct.
how would that apply to everyday marketers? What would be, and I know you can't kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I know you can't be as granular because everyone's, data
Everybody's
systems is
different,
different.
right?
But what would be the general things? Because actually some people just take 10% and it's just a random 10%, but I do believe it should be a lot more considered. So what would you guys recommend with that? And then we do have a few other great questions. Marina's one I definitely want to get next. So
sure.
Yeah.
I always try to take a representative sample of the whole, right? So for example, every list is generally 65% inactive, let's call it, right? So you want your control group to look like that. You want it to look like your different spending categories. However, you can split it up to be representative of the whole. Fantastic, right? But at acquisition, it's harder to do because you don't have purchase history.
Yeah.
So many times you'll just do a random sample of 5%, to build the control group out. And this is for the data sciences, right? That's where I rely on them to how to build it. But you can take a sliver of your daily signups and isolate those people until you get to scale. And you can also, if the long-term effect of having a holdout group and not having those customers in the mix, you can rotate out that control group on a regular interval to give you a fresh read, especially if you have healthy acquisition rates.
So I think I'd like to amend it and have the control group receive the BAU, right? Because they're not lifecycle marketing, but they are still email marketing. Because remember, the goal of the test is actually to see if lifecycle marketing gives an uplift, as opposed to, so it would just be not including those lifecycle emails, that they would still get the BAUs.
You could do that. Yeah. You just put the caveat on it. You put the control group and you put in any control group, you put the rules, right? How are they adopted in the program? What is the consistency and inconsistency? So yes, Kath, you could do that. I've done persistent that's totally across the board, right? They don't get anything.
But they're the really, really, really hard holdout groups to convince,
they are.
Right?
I mean, that's where you rely on your
other media.
Yeah, as I say, that's the only time you pull that off is if your boss comes to you and says, "What's the value of our program?" And you go, "Well, I can show you, but I need 3 months to do it."
But
Right.
I've gone and done that, and I've pitched it to them and said, "This is how you're going to do it. If you want to qualify that, you need to do this." And then they go, because they usually come because they're kind of like, they're questioning the value of email. And then when it comes down to it, they go, "Oh no, we can't do that. We can't have people not receive email for 3 months," because they actually do understand the value of email. So it's really, really hard to get anyone to sign off from doing it.
Yeah.
Because of it. Yeah.
It's generally the ones I see are that do the total control group, right? Are the what I call the super enterprise companies, right? HP, Walmart, Best Buy, Harrods, those kind of groups that have so many customers, a small holdout group isn't going to affect their bottom line at all. But to Cass' point, if you're in a smaller company, you don't have large acquisition rates, you are not a AARP, to pick on Heather. If you're not an AARP, then do send the BAUs and keep that communication, but isolate them from all of your automation, except for transactional.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to lead on to some other questions now. I think that was really good in regards to control groups. So let's get into some nitty gritty. Marino, actually, this was a question that we were going to ask. And if there are any other questions, please do fill them through, especially if you've got questions regarding any active. Thank you. Especially if you've not got if you've got active campaigns on at the moment and you want to pick at these minds right now, this is the time to do it. So the question is from Marino. They'd love to know, or they'd love to hear from you guys, your perspective on the consideration between customer journeys and lifecycle journeys, as they usually see the two being conflicted in regards to their description. So essentially, what are your thoughts when it comes to customer journeys and lifecycle journeys? And that was one of our questions. What is the difference? And are they just one and the same, or are they two distinct different things?
There is no difference.
Okay.
There is no difference. No, I agree,
There's no
Ryan.
difference.
Yeah. I mean, you could say like customer journeys are for like, if you are in software, you could say customer journey is the people who've actually bought from you and you need to onboard them. But it really is conflating terms again, right? Like what is it? All customer journeys are lifecycle journeys. Maybe not all lifecycle journeys are customer journeys. Like you could say that, right? Like it's a subset. So no, there's really no difference. I would consider, if you consider somebody a customer the instant they raise their hand, then they're all the same. If you don't define somebody as a customer till they purchase, then you could have a little bit of difference, but functionally they're the same thing.
I'm interested for Elizabeth. Do you see a lot of terminology confusion? I mean, this is, this question is not surprising because a lot of enterprise companies, people throw around acronyms and references like crazy, right? Do you see that in your organization where there is that the mixing of terms?
Well, in this instance, yes, but I don't know. I found it so difficult because it is often just a term that a company uses, whether it's like right or wrong is sometimes just down to opinion. So like a customer journey, we would interpret that as a welcome journey. So something, as soon as a customer signs up to hear from us via email or push message, then every few days the customer will receive the same communication regardless of whether they purchase or not. Whereas life cycle, again, if you're a customer who purchases regularly with us for years, then you wouldn't receive our life cycle journey. So that's different per customer.
Yeah. It's almost funny. Life cycle marketing came from responses. Journeys came from exact target. And so it's split. There is confusion in the space, right? What is to Scott's earlier point? What is it,
But then marketing automation also came from one specific brand, and then everyone else picked it up as well.
Oh yeah.
So it's a case of, we understand, we're heavily trained by our tech suppliers, right? And they put in a lot of effort and trying to educate us. And that's, Ryan, as you and I know, that was how we basically got our education in the very early days. It was the tech suppliers and everything, and then it was everyone starting to actually come out. You had actually authentic thought leaders coming from actual experience. But in the meantime, we've grown up with all of these terms, and then everyone just makes them, to suit themselves and their own subjective experience and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I think to Elizabeth's point, it is whatever it is within that particular company, and you just toe the line with that. You just buy that
if
one.
It works for
and
you,
then when and then if you move to another company, well, then you might have to change your definition of it because they have a different definition. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Okay, so it's basically all kumbaya. It's all just It's all just
By
one.
the way, you might be in a company where they use streams. It's the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah.
bloody
And for
thing.
flows, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's get into some really good nitty practical questions. I do see Joseph's question there, and I'm going to ask that after because it ties in with Heather. But I want to see if we can get some more technical things in. So, how would you guys go about testing your life cycle program? So this is not looking at the metrics. It's what are the different types of AB, or as Kath likes to say, ABN tests, that you would like, or do you feel should be adopted or tried and tested, or any that you've done and you feel as though it's been a success? Any tips for the audience?
I want to hear Elizabeth on this one.
Oh, because you want to know what Uniqlo is doing.
Yeah, interested why. Yeah. Well, I think like there's the test that you can do that you would do in all email campaigns, to be honest. So like subject line, copy, creative. I think that's always important to continue to do those tests no matter what type of email campaign you have. But for us, or in my experience, a key test for lifecycle is the timing of when the email is sent. A key objective for our lifecycle campaigns is to win back customers. And we will obviously start at the date and we'll see what their typical purchase patterns are for a first conversion, second conversion, third conversion. And as soon as customers kind of deviate from what we would like to be the repeat purchase pattern, then we would trigger an automated lifecycle campaign. But sometimes those results aren't as we would expect, and perhaps we need to send the lifecycle campaign a month earlier, a month later. So we do test that, and I have tested that before, and I think that's a key one for us anyway. Is the timing, which is obviously not as much of an important test for BAU.
Yeah.
So you're very much driven on the post-purchase. The next purchase. You're always trying to get the next purchase, and so you look at
Yes.
timings. And within those campaigns, do you then look at other factors? So if the timings are then optimized based on someone's behavior, do you then move on to looking at the actual segment within itself, or content, or the messaging?
Yeah, exactly. I guess that would be a series of different tests that we can do, and if we kind of tick off one once we think we've achieved one and understood the best timing, then we'd move on to the other aspects of testing. Yeah,
Okay, so Kath, what would you kind of advise what listeners today in terms of testing, and what elements, and how can they really go about creating some really robust tests within their automation? So like Elizabeth said, we've all done the standard, subject lines, and we're looking at adding personalization, which is usually just, hey, Adiola. But what else? What else can we do to optimize these campaigns or these flows?
Yeah, or these streams, or these. The way I see it is that these automations, right? These flow streams, whatever you want to call them, are incredibly. They work really well, generally speaking, and so we get high engagement from them. Therefore, we can get lots of insight from them. So I like to actually be testing audience motivations for particular stages, right? So it's like, and so you can be testing the different types of messaging, or what kind of, savings versus benefits, that kind of different approach. And you can come up with, or you will come up with, particularly if you use a hypothesis, which, ensures that you're testing this against this, not this against this, right? And then what happens then is that you can then come up and say, oh, that's really interesting. So if it's learned something about this particular audience at this particular time in their life cycle, I wonder if it also applies to. And then you can try it in other programs, you can try it in your BAUs, all that kind of stuff. So I try and do it so that you're not just going to get that immediate uplift and that immediate learning for that particular program, but that you can also apply it. And then beyond that, you might even have something that really, really works well. So say if you've got a great acquisition campaign or something, and you might want to go over to the PPC guys or something and just say, hey, listen, we've found that this really works. This is a good approach. Why don't you test it there? Or maybe social media, or, for conversions or something. So you can be finding out lots of things like that, but definitely hypothesis, you have to start with that. You have to be, and that's the other thing too, with the marketing automation or the automated lifecycle campaigns, or programs, when you're actually testing them, they go for a period of time as opposed to, a BAU test, which is you'll have, that one time, and therefore you need to be testing it multiple times. As long as you are giving the automation program, enough time to give you that statistical result. But yeah, I mean, then we'd be talking, I can tell you a whole heap more, but then we're talking really about lots of other things that you need to make sure that you're testing. But the one last thing I would throw in there is I believe, so we actually do the holistic testing approach, which is talking about using it elsewhere, the results elsewhere. But also it means that when you're using a hypothesis, and this is often not done within email marketing, because we've been very, very strictly told that you only ever test one element at a time, right? So the subject line or call to action or first paragraph. But that's because they don't generally use a hypothesis. And if you don't use a hypothesis, then you won't know why it won, or so you can.
So, Kath, what is the hypothesis? Because
So a hypothesis is simply you just saying, I believe that this is going to deliver a higher conversion rate or uplift or whatever the story is, your metric, than this other one. Because you have to have the because the because is the learning. Okay, so you start with that hypothesis, and that then gives you the freedom to be able to say, so say if we're talking savings versus benefits, the variant A will be savings, and so subject line can be talking about savings, first paragraph talking about savings, the imagery that's supporting that email is also reflecting savings, so call to action is go save today, whatever, talking about savings. And then the variant B will be based on benefits. So again, you can have all those different components, but they're all supporting the hypothesis. And in this case, they'd be then doing the benefits. And that gives you a very robust test result, because you're not just relying upon one tiny little factor within the email.
I want to add here.
Go ahead, Scott. Add away.
I love it, Kath. Absolutely love it. I want to add a few things. One, be prepared to test to fail, or be flat. Mm-hmm. So I think it's also important, not just with your hypothesis, which is crucial, but also the objective of the test. Is the objective of the test to get a winner, or is the objective of a test to perform flat so you can replace? Because in some cases, like especially with automation, some of your automation might be 4 years old. And you might test against it and it might lose, which is scary to think about. But in some cases, like if you're doing a rebrand, the smart person would test into the rebrand to make sure that the results are flat. You can go, oh, this version of the rebrand is working as well as the old one is, we can swap it out. Like you're not looking necessarily for a winner in that case. So like you have really, I would say, two big types of tests. There's test for win and test for replace.
Yeah.
And so there's like a higher level, like if you're testing to win, you have that higher threshold that you won't replace what you have unless you have a definitive, statistically significant winner. Yeah. And then in other cases, you go, if it's flat, the objective is to replace, so it just needs to perform as well as the old version. So I mean, it's classic, direct response marketing, right? Like you can test into it that way. But that's the one thing I wanted to call out. And just, I mean, I think 90% of the tests I've run in my career have either been flat or lost. Like you don't get winners all that often. So, cut yourself some slack out there if you're seeing a bunch of losers lately. Like it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yes.
Anything?
I would agree with everybody.
What's going on?
I know.
No, I was expecting him to say, I would agree with everyone, but I won't.
But
I won't. All crap. No, you know what? When it comes to testing, here's what I want in the world, right? To test something other than the freaking subject line.
Thank you.
Then we're good. That's the bar. Can you test more than
what
this?
What else are we testing? So, like Kath has talked about the holistic approach, so
everything.
Looking at the hypothesis.
Everything.
So you're agreeing in terms of looking at that whole hypothesis-led testing.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's got to have a hypothesis. You got to know where you're going.
You can
but I
tweak
take
all
it.
of the different elements,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I
Okay.
want people to have testing plans. I want them over a 3 or 4 month period to say, I'm going to work up to this goal, which is proving X. And along the way, here's how I'm going to test that, right? I want some discipline to it. I want people to do tests based on a strategy that they've laid out ahead of time. And I want them to document it in a book that says, we tested this and here was the creative. Because when you, the person that's in charge, gets another job
Yep.
and gets paid like $1 zillion dollars, it would be nice to leave something behind for people to say, hey, here's what we did. I think that's the threshold for us. We're so crushed with just everyday work, and I get it. It's a bear out there, and if we can get a test, it's a glorious thing. But I just think that's a disciplined approach that we need to have. And as long as you're doing something other than subject line and you're getting more sophisticated as you go, then I am happy, and I'm not going to sit there and go, you need to test this image or this logo or this one.
Yeah.
Test something.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. But I also see that subject line testing is a good foot in the door, right? It's a good learning curve. Get yourself a little bit familiar and all that sort of stuff. But my point is here, or my plead, I think I'm pleading, here is that if you are going to test subject lines, right, and only testing the subject line, don't go with the obvious that everyone else is using, which is open rate, because it's not the right metric.
Oh, God,
Right.
Correct.
You have to choose the right metric, and that's the one that supports your goal. So if it's to actually achieve higher revenue, right, because you want sales, then you're going to be looking at the conversion rate rather than or one of the other metrics, right? Even because you have to be doing that. And because again, I give this example all the time, and as soon as I do, everyone just goes, "Oh yeah, you're right." Go and get your top 10 campaigns for open rates. Go then get your top 10 campaigns for click rates. Go get your top 10 campaigns for conversion rates. And you'll find that they're not the same. They're not the same. So what that means is that if you are optimizing for the open rate for your subject line, you are going to get more people looking at it, because that's your goal in that particular case, but it doesn't actually map back to your goal of increased conversions. And in that case, you might be failing. So
yeah, but I don't think the conversion is a method of the subject line. That's why I think subject line testing is just a waste of freaking time. The only reason we talk about it is because the ESPs built it into the platform. But
No, it's not a
it's
waste.
easy.
I think it's a waste.
Yeah,
I think it's an absolute
agreed.
waste.
You need the message to appeal. Like at first
To
instance,
who?
your brand name is not going to be enough in some cases to get someone to open. So you still need to whet their appetite with a
Sorry, my phone rang.
compelling story, which is the subject line.
No.
I agree to a point. I think if all you're doing is testing subject lines, you're testing to say you're testing. You can go to
No,
your
but
boss
it's
and
not
say, "Hey,
just
I'm
to
testing."
only
No,
test.
I get it. I fully agree with you, Adiola. Like, no, it's like the subject line is part of the complete package. But I think what Kat's point is if you're getting a 20% lift in open rate, but it doesn't matter downstream, then it doesn't matter. But it can show you what's wrong in the email they're opening. And like, let's say those the top 10 in clicks and the top 10 in conversions should have a pretty sizable middle section of the Venn diagram. If it's not, then you have to go, is the issue what I'm saying in the email, or do I need to go talk to the website team and go, what the hell are you doing with the guys, with the traffic I'm delivering you? So like it exposes areas of opportunity. But if all you're doing is going, I'm going to test whether I put the dollars in front or the dollars off at the end, like
It makes no difference.
you're not I think what Heather
You're
said in the
testing
chat,
that
like you're
percent.
testing versus learning at that point.
Yeah.
You're just testing to say you're testing.
Yes.
You're not learning
Yeah,
anything.
it's a tick box. Yeah.
Beautiful,
bigger.
sexy answers. Thank you, everybody. I liked this. Very robust. And Joseph has thrown in another question, and I quite like this one. So let's just quickly get into this. Joseph says, thoughts on look back windows. There are some campaigns I feel like conversions may come more quickly versus some much later. Do you change them up? Do you?
So in a previous life, I worked for a contact lens company, and we had what I like to call same damn email syndrome. We literally sent the same emails every week because it was just, hey, be front and center when people go, oh crap, I ran out of contacts, let me be ready to go. we had people that would convert through a click to the same email we sent them this week, but from 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that one you could go last click, right? General look back window, I usually go, and Kath, I think you and I have talked about this separately. 7 days is a decent look back on, certainly on clicks. I would even argue opens to a certain extent. You could even go expand and go true sort of directional with, we sent these people an email within the past 7 days, how many of them converted ultimately? And then you could look at whatever that last click attribution really is at the end of the day. Remember, everything that they see, going back to the CRM discussion at the beginning, everything they see influences what they do. So it could be that they see a paid social ad, they don't click through it there, but they go, oh yeah, but I had an email for it. Or, oh,
And
hey, I got the email this morning, I'm just going to go order now.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think on that basis, then the easiest thing is to look at the data. Go back and have a look at your data. We did that with one of our clients. They had a 4-day look back window, and the reason was is they sent emails every 4 days. So they just wanted to close it off because they've got a new campaign coming. So from their reporting perspective, it made sense. It was logical. But then when we actually looked into Google Analytics, we found out they had a 7-week window, and those that were clicking and converting down the track, down sort of as we're going down the tail end there, they had higher intent, of course, right? Because they had actually saved the email so that they could go and action it later on whenever the time was right. So it was really interesting, and you may not, in that case, you may not want to go 7 weeks. But if you think about it, so we found out that they were underreporting massively. Like, so what was it, 96% of the time, that delivered 150% more of the results or something. I've written the case study somewhere. So therefore, as far as they go, when they're talking about getting budget, getting resource, they're actually doing themselves a disservice because they were going for the easy win, which is just reporting the 4 days. So I would say do your initial report for sure. You have to, you want to, right? Because you need to be doing that initial one. But then also ensure that weeks and weeks later, or however long it is, depending on your data, go back and update everything so that you actually have then a more robust report to deliver when you're trying to get more budget.
We tend to do probably similar in most companies, to be honest, but like a monthly report and a weekly report. So we do one every week and every month. And definitely then we obviously see growth in revenue for the campaigns, not just for that week. So I think looking at both stages is important.
Yeah.
We used to do the same thing when I was at Sears. We would do weekly and monthly roll-ups, right? And then as soon as the month was out, we'd close out the books or something like that. But, it was funny. We did an analysis of how much money did email make over a 365-day period. And the surprising thing is when we mapped it out, of course, you got the big spike when you send it and then it drifts off, but everybody thinks it just bottoms out. We were getting revenue off of emails a year from when they were deployed. And so that changed how we did reporting. That changed how we rolled up revenue to everybody else. We would have to go back and republish the prior year to capture that missing revenue. Otherwise, it was just given to somebody else. And so
that's a lot of work.
It really, we got it down to a process and it was fairly easy. But I like what Cass says is every company is different, right? It could be 7 weeks, it could be 7 months, it could be a year, it could be, whatever. If you're in Scott's business, is it one and done or is it recurring? Do you fix these teeth and then fix that? It really does depend on the product and the purchase frequency and the customer type that you have. But think broadly to what that window looks like, because it could be in retail, it could be a year.
And also look at it at a customer level. Look at the customer level, because
segment.
What got me to looking at beyond last click was I sat there and I went, we have all these conversions, but we make more sales, but when we don't mail, numbers are down.
Right.
So I asked you talked about the data analyst, right? So I went to my data analyst and I said, hey, give me, and this was just a week look back. I said, give me everyone who received the email and ordered within 2 days, just 2 days.
Right.
And of any of these emails we sent last week, they received it within 2 days, they ordered, and then tell me whether they opened or didn't. And 40% of revenue came from people who didn't open the email.
Yep.
And I went, holy shit. Like,
Yep.
that's a lot of money. So, or in a lot of orders. So that's when I went, oh, last click is crap. I mean, it's fair and directional, but if you are only reporting on that, you're selling yourself short.
That's it. And you know, the DMA in the UK with their report, their survey that come out with every year, and it's the customer survey, so it's questioning actual customers. They all say, you know, they say, so what are the top 3 actions that you take when you receive an email that you like? And for who knows how many years, I think 9 years or something, that's been happening. Sometimes click isn't even in the top 3, right? Saving the email is always in the top 3. Saving the email for later, or they go to another site or something. So yes, we understand that the attribution isn't always right. And so when we're looking at that, we're already missing out attribution if we're using last click. So the very least we can do is make sure that we're using the right window, you know, to be able to be claiming that. Otherwise, we're losing out on that, as well as, you know, wrong attribution.
Is this everyone? Because I've tried to ask Joseph if this question was answered 3 times. So if everyone has said their bits.
Sorry.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joseph, I feel like they've answered your question. I dare you to say that they haven't. So yeah, I think, all right, so we've got 3 minutes left.
Ugh, that's sad.
Just 3
Let's go
minutes.
for hour 2, Kath. Come on, do it.
Let's break the rules.
I don't know if Emmy will let us, but I feel like, do we want to go to wrap up, or do we want to try and have a stab at another question? It's just, I just don't trust Scott or Ryan to keep within time.
Oh, God.
Oh,
No,
goodness.
we'll never.
Wow.
If you don't wrap up now, we'll talk about.
You'll talk forever. You're like
Yeah.
African aunties. Once you get together, you just like to have a good old natter. All that's missing is some rice. Just
or booze.
or booze, Guinness.
But remember, we always say this is like having a conversation with your email marketing friends at the pub, right?
Yes.
Definitely.
This is just iced tea. It's still the morning for me.
Okay, no, we have a really nice question from Rachel Flower from Bloom and Wild, and I love Bloom and Wild. Rachel, it's so nice to have you here.
And she's got such an appropriate name.
Yeah, I know, Rachel Flower.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I'm actually going to be ordering soon, so look out for me in your CRM campaigns. Anyway, let me not waste time. Thoughts on what to do with a customer after successfully winning back, reactivating a customer who was lapsed, is funneling them back into our active in life cycle flows way too simplistic? It's a really nice question. So basically, once we've done all the hard work and we've won them over, is there something else we should be doing with them, or, you know, is funneling them back into BAUs absolutely fine?
How are you defining reactivating?
Oh, goodness.
Let's
God.
make up a rule.
We've got
Let's
to
just say
like,
they went through
is
a-
reactivation they opened and they clicked something? Is it they
Probably.
like
Let's
what?
say it is.
Okay.
Okay, Rachel,
Yeah.
quickly type. Let's get this answered. Is your
Is it a
Can you just
purchase? Because if it is, yeah, roll them back into active.
Converting.
Converting. Okay, yeah. Then yeah, I would say obviously if there's any sort of post-purchase stuff that you have built in, you roll them into that, and then any sort of next logical product that you have based off of what they've purchased before. I mean, it's
but not BAU. I wouldn't stick them right back into BAU.
No,
I would taper them into BAU over an extended period of time, because you burn them. You may have burned them out with cadence, right? And so, you know, hey, we won you back, but here, have all the crap that we sent you before. It's like you never left.
Okay, so what they're saying, Rachel, in a very quick way, is create another stream, create another automation that deals with the next objective, which is essentially getting them to purchase again. So we wouldn't necessarily do the BAUs, but more customized and tailored messages to help hopefully build them and keep them active. Is that right? Is that a good summary, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'd
I'd
Pretty
agree
much.
with that.
Yeah. Woo-hoo! And that is time. Yeah. We are at time, guys. This has been amazing. So thank you so much. I'm really, really happy with all of the questions today. You guys were on fire. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. This is literally all we have time for. So we are done. So just thank you so much. And can everyone just join me by giving a big thanks to our gold sponsors, Iterable and Engage, and our silver sponsors, RPE, Origin, and Actito. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And again, I just want to thank and give the biggest thanks of all to our lovely panelists that spent time with us today. Like, this session wouldn't have been what it is without you guys. So thank you so much for giving us your time, for giving us all of your knowledge and insights, for being so open, and also for being so fun. Just awesome. Thank you. Round of applause for you guys. Thank you so much. So Kath and Skip will be back on the 25th of October with Helen Rankin of Cheeky Wipes, Janet Roberts, who's a content producer, and Jem Pike of Crow. And they'll be talking about persuasive copywriting. So if you want to learn how to do persuasive copywriting within your automations, then join us on the 25th of October, where that's all they're going to be talking about. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. And we hope you really got some really great insights from this. And feel free to leave us some feedback as well. We love to hear your thoughts, what we can work on, what we did great. We will be sending an email around when this is hosted on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch this again. Don't worry. And that's it for today. Enjoy your evenings or your day if you're in the US. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.